Chicago is the largest city in Illinois and the third largest city in the United States. Located on the Lake Michigan shoreline, it is known for its rich history, diverse culture, and iconic architecture. However, in this video we will explore tragedies, disasters, and murders that shaped the city's history. Without further ado, let's get into it. H. Holmes, born Herman Webster Mudgett, 1861-1896. Often called America's first serial killer. Active during the late 19th century, he operated in Chicago during the 1893 World's Fair, where he built a mysterious hotel later nicknamed the Murder Castle. It was located at 601-603 West 63rd Street in the Englewood neighborhood of Chicago's South Side. It was designed with hidden rooms, secret passages, and trapdoors, where he is believed to have lured, killed, and disposed of many victims, mostly young women. Holmes confessed to 27 murders, though some estimates suggest he may have killed over 100. He was arrested in 1894 and executed by hanging in 1896. His story remains one of the most chilling in American criminal history. The Chicago Race Riot of 1919 was a violent racial conflict that erupted in Chicago from July 27th to August 3rd, 1919, during a period of significant racial tension in the United States. The riot was part of a broader wave of race riots that occurred across the country after World War I, as African Americans faced increased discrimination and hostility in northern cities. The riot began when a black teenager, Eugene Williams, accidentally crossed an invisible racial boundary line while swimming in Lake Michigan. He was stoned by a group of white youths, and when he tried to swim to safety, he drowned. The police's refusal to arrest the white perpetrators led to outrage in the black community. Over the course of several days, rioters clashed with white mobs attacking black neighborhoods and vice versa. The riot lasted for almost a week, resulting in at least 38 deaths, 23 African Americans and 15 whites, and hundreds of injuries. Property was destroyed, and hundreds of African American homes and businesses were burned. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre occurred on February 14, 1929, in Chicago during the Prohibition era. 7 members of the North Side Gang, led by George "Bugs" Moran, were lined up and shot execution-style by men dressed as police officers. The attack was believed to be ordered by Al Capone, Moran's rival, though he was never officially charged. It remains one of the most infamous gangland killings in American history. The massacre shocked the nation and marked a turning point in America's view of organized crime. John Dillinger, 1903-1934, was a notorious American bank robber and criminal during the Great Depression. He became infamous as the leader of the Dillinger Gang, which robbed more than 24 banks and police stations across the Midwest in the early 1930s. Dillinger was declared public enemy number 1 by the newly formed FBI. He became a media sensation, both feared and admired due to his daring and charisma. On July 22, 1934, Dillinger was betrayed by an informant, the Lady in Red, and ambushed by FBI agents outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago. He was shot and killed at age 31. The Hour. Lady of the Angels School fire was a tragic event that occurred on December 1, 1958, at the Our Lady of the Angels Catholic School in Chicago, Illinois. The fire resulted in the deaths of 95 children and 3 nuns, making it one of the deadliest school fires in U.S. history. The fire started on the top floor of the building, which was a 3-story structure. It spread quickly due to the lack of fire escapes on the upper floors and the flammable building materials. The fire began in a storage area, possibly due to faulty electrical wiring, but quickly engulfed the building. Many of the children on the upper floors could not escape as the school's fire escapes were either blocked or inadequate. Some children jumped from windows to escape the flames, and many were trapped inside. The fire exposed major flaws in school building safety, including inadequate fire protection systems and insufficient evacuation routes. Investigations revealed that the school's fire safety standards were severely lacking, and no sprinklers were installed in the building. The disaster led to significant reforms in building codes and fire safety laws across the U.S. including stricter regulations on fire drills, fire alarms, and safety measures in schools. Richard Speck, 1941–1991, was an American mass murderer who became infamous for the brutal Chicago student nurse massacre in 1966. Speck killed 8 student nurses in a Chicago townhouse on July 13, 1966, while they were living together in a dormitory, leaving one survivor, Corazon Amorao, who helped identify him. Speck was arrested shortly after the crime and convicted in 1967. He was sentenced to death, but his sentence was later commuted to life imprisonment after the U.S. Supreme Court temporarily invalidated the death penalty. He died in 1991 in prison, where he had gained a reputation as a notorious criminal. Fred Hampton, 1948–1969, was a prominent African-American activist and leader of the Black Panther Party in Chicago during the late 1960s. He was a charismatic leader who worked to unite poor Black communities and other marginalized groups, including white and Latino activists, through his Rainbow Coalition. Hampton's activism and influence made him a target of the FBI's COINTELPRO counterintelligence program, which sought to disrupt and neutralize Black activist groups. On December 4, 1969, Fred Hampton was killed in a police raid at his apartment in Chicago. The raid, led by the Chicago Police Department and the FBI, was controversial and raised questions about government overreach and the targeting of civil rights leaders. John Wayne Gacy was one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, operating in Chicago, Illinois during the 1970s. He was known as the Killer Clown because he performed at parties as Pogo the Clown, a disturbing contrast to his horrific crimes. Gacy lived in Norwood Park, a suburb of Chicago, and he worked primarily as a construction contractor, but was also involved in local politics. Between 1972 and 1978, he sexually assaulted and murdered at least 33 young men and boys. Most of his victims were lured to his home, then strangled and buried in the crawl space beneath his house. He was arrested in December 1978 after the disappearance of 15-year, which led police to uncover the remains of dozens of victims. Gacy was convicted in 1980 and sentenced to death. He was executed by lethal injection in 1994. The Chicago Tylenol murders occurred in 1982, when 7 people in the Chicago area died after consuming extra-strength Tylenol capsules that had been tampered with cyanide. This event caused widespread panic and led to major changes in the way over-the-counter medications were packaged and sold. The bottles they consumed from had been tampered with in stores, leading to a public health crisis. Once it was discovered that the deaths were caused by poisoned Tylenol, the Johnson & Johnson company, which manufactured the drug, immediately issued a nationwide recall of 31 million bottles of Tylenol. Despite extensive investigations, the killer was never caught. There were various suspects, but no one was conclusively linked to the crime. Cabrini Green was a notorious public housing complex located on the near north side of Chicago, known for its history of poverty, crime, and violence. It was originally built in the 1940s and became infamous in the following decades for its deteriorating conditions and gang activity. Cabrini Green was originally designed to provide affordable housing for low-income residents, especially for African Americans, during a time when the city's public housing was racially segregated. By the 1970s and 1980s, the complex fell into severe disrepair. Due to lack of maintenance, poor living conditions, and the concentration of poverty, Cabrini Green became a hotbed for drug dealing, gang activity, and violent crime, where both sexual assaults, robberies, and murders occurred. It was also the setting for the 1992 horror film Candyman, which further cemented its place in popular culture as a symbol of inner-city violence and fear. Starting in the 2000s, Cabrini Green was gradually demolished as part of the Chicago Housing Authority's plan for transformation, which aimed to replace the old high-rise buildings with mixed-income housing. The project was completed by 2011, and the last of Cabrini Green towers torn down. These were some of the most notorious and tragic events that shaped Chicago's history. If you liked the video and want more videos like this, let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching.